Give it back. Clara Vale heard the words from across the moon hall, but Alpha King Rowan Blackwood was not speaking to her. He was speaking to his enormous black wolf. The animal stood between Clara and the golden palace doors, blocking her path through the falling snow. Behind her, hundreds of nobles had gone silent. Clara tightened her fingers around the handle of her battered brown suitcase. Minutes earlier, she had returned the small silver key Rowan had given her 3 years ago. Now she was leaving Blackwood Palace for good. The royal wolf seemed to understand before Rowan did. "Come back," Rowan ordered. The wolf did not move. Instead, it turned toward Clara and lowered its great head beside her hand. A murmur moved through the court. Clara swallowed. "Go back to him." The wolf remained beside her. Rowan stood beneath the chandeliers in his black ceremonial coat, Lady Celeste beside the throne where the Alliance Council expected her to stand. Celeste was beautiful, educated, politically useful, and completely innocent of Clara's pain. That almost made leaving harder. Rowan descended one step from the dais. "Clara." She looked at him. For years, hearing her name in his voice had been enough to make her stay. Tonight it was not. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in courage and destiny, hit like and subscribe. These stories remind us, love finds the broken. Now, back to Clara. 3 years earlier, Clara had arrived at Blackwood as an unranked Omega with nowhere else to go. Her former pack had collapsed after a brutal winter, scattering its lower-ranked wolves across neighboring territories. She expected kitchen work or laundry. Instead, on her third evening at the palace, she found Rowan behind the western stables with blood soaking through his black shirt. He had returned early from a border attack and dismissed his guards because he hated being watched while injured. Clara saw only a wounded man leaning against stone. "Sit down before you fall down." Rowan stared at her. No one ordered the Alpha King to sit. Clara pointed at the blood beneath his hand. "Or fall down. Either way, I am cleaning that wound." To his own surprise, Rowan sat. Clara had once assisted a village healer. Her hands remained steady as she cleaned the wound and stitched the deepest cut. Rowan tried not to react. "You are terrible at pretending it does not hurt. People usually tell me I am intimidating. People usually want something from you." Rowan looked at her differently after that. The next morning, Clara found a silver key beside her breakfast. It opened a modest cottage near the Western Gardens. Rowan found her there that evening. "You need somewhere better than the servants' quarters." Clara stared at the key. "For stitching your side. For speaking to me like I was a person while you did it." That became the beginning of everything they never named. Rowan began visiting after council meetings. At first, Clara changed his bandages. Then the wound healed, and he kept coming. She learned he slept badly before treaty negotiations and went silent when afraid. He learned she sang while baking, loved old books, and hated asking for firewood. He began sending wood before winter. She left a lamp burning when he traveled. Neither called it love. Clara knew why. Kings could want affection. Kings married advantage. She was an Omega with no family, territory, or political value. Still, the years passed, and she waited. At one moon ball, Rowan promised to visit after the ceremony. Clara kept the lamp burning until sunrise. A border dispute detained him. His apology was sincere. That almost hurt more. Rowan was never deliberately cruel. He simply believed Clara would always understand. Then Lady Celeste arrived. The night Rowan announced that Celeste would stand beside him during the Alliance season, the court applauded his sensible choice. Clara finally understood. Rowan had never promised her a future. He had simply grown comfortable knowing she would always be waiting inside the Western cottage. Clara slipped her hand into her pocket and closed her fingers around the silver key. For the first time, it did not feel like proof that she belonged somewhere. It felt like proof of how long she had waited for permission to belong to herself. Before the night ended, Clara decided to give it back. Clara did not sleep. She packed. The Western cottage looked painfully empty once she separated what belonged to her from what belonged to the crown. The carved furniture was royal property. The blankets came from palace stores. Even Rowan's favorite porcelain cup belonged to Blackwood. Clara's life fit inside one battered suitcase. At dawn, she removed the lamp from the window. Across the palace grounds, Rowan saw the dark window from his chamber and stopped fastening his cuff. For 3 years, that lamp had burned whenever he was home. By breakfast, a servant placed the silver key on his desk. Miss Vale returned this, Your Majesty. Rowan stared at it. Where is she? At the western cottage. She appears to be packing. Rowan left the council chamber before the northern ambassador finished speaking. He found Clara folding a brown traveling cloak. You are leaving. Yes. For Greyhaven. The village clinic needs help. Rowan looked at the suitcase as though it offended him. You are not a healer. I assisted one before coming here. You never told me you wanted to leave. Clara closed the suitcase. I did not know I wanted to leave until staying became harder. Rowan stepped closer. This is because of Celeste. No, I chose her for the Alliance season because the council requires a ranked representative beside me. I know. Then this does not make sense. Clara looked around the cottage. 3 years lived inside its walls. That is the problem. Every individual reason made sense. The council mattered. The border mattered. The treaties mattered. Celeste makes political sense. You always had a reason. Rowan's jaw tightened. I am king. I know. Her gentleness hurt more than anger. I spent years understanding you, Rowan. I understood every missed dinner and every forgotten promise. I understood why you could come here after midnight, but could not stand beside me before the court. I understood until there was almost nothing left of me except understanding. Rowan went still. You should have told me. Clara's eyes lifted. I tried. He searched his memory. There had been no dramatic confrontation. No ultimatum. Only small moments he had treated as temporary sadness. Clara asking whether he would attend the winter market. Clara going quiet after another moon ball. Clara asking once whether he ever imagined a life outside the crown. He had answered every question later, tomorrow, after the treaty, after the border, after the council. Clara picked up her suitcase. I am not punishing you. Then stay. That is exactly why I have to go. His wolf surged beneath his skin. Rowan turned away, fighting the instinct to command. He could order the palace gates closed. Pack law gave him more authority than any man should have over an unranked Omega living on royal land. Clara seemed to read the battle on his face. Please do not make me hate you in order to leave you. The words struck harder than any blade. Rowan stepped aside. Clara walked past him. By evening, the Moon Hall was filled for the Alliance reception. Clara had intended to leave unnoticed, but Celeste found her near the servants' corridor. You are going. Clara nodded. Celeste looked toward Rowan across the hall. He does not understand yet. That is no longer my responsibility. Celeste gave her a sad smile. Good. Clara blinked. Celeste continued. For what it is worth, he has never looked at me the way he looks toward the western garden when he thinks no one notices. Looking is not choosing. No, it is not. Clara thanked her and walked toward the doors. Rowan finally saw the suitcase. His face changed. His wolf appeared before he could stop it. The enormous black animal crossed the hall, ignored every noble, and planted itself beside Clara. She stepped into the snow. The wolf followed. Go back to him, Clara whispered. It refused. Rowan descended from the dais. Clara continued walking. The wolf moved with her. Behind them, Rowan closed his hand around the returned silver key. 3 years ago, he had given Clara shelter because she saved his life. Tonight she was leaving because somewhere along the way he had mistaken giving her a home for giving her a future. Clara reached the outer courtyard before Rowan caught up. Snow gathered in her chestnut hair and along the shoulders of her midnight blue dress. The carriage for Greyhaven waited near the gate. His wolf remained beside her, enormous and stubborn. Rowan stopped several feet away. He will not listen to me. Clara looked down at the animal. Perhaps he learned that from his king. Under any other circumstances, Rowan might have smiled. Tonight he could barely breathe. Clara, come inside. We can talk without half the palace watching. We have had 3 years to talk. Then give me 1 night. And tomorrow there will be another reason to wait. Rowan's voice lowered. I love you. Clara closed her eyes. There it was. The sentence she had once wanted more than anything. Now it arrived only after she had packed. Do not do that. It is true. Maybe it is. Rowan looked wounded by the answer. Clara continued. But I cannot know whether you love me or whether you are terrified because I finally stopped waiting. Rowan had no answer. That silence told her more than a desperate promise could. Clara stepped toward the carriage. The royal wolf moved in front of the door. Please move. It whined. She tried to step around it. The wolf followed and blocked her again. Rowan could have let it happen. He could have called the animal's loyalty fate. He could have used pack law, royal authority, or the bond between his wolf and the woman standing before him. Instead, he walked forward and placed one hand against the wolf's neck. Move. The animal resisted. Rowan swallowed. She said no. Slowly, reluctantly, the royal wolf stepped aside. Clara stared at Rowan. He reached past her and opened the carriage door himself. Every instinct in him screamed to close it. Go. Clara's eyes filled. Rowan. His fingers tightened around the handle. If the only way I can keep you is by making it difficult for you to leave, then whatever I feel for you is not worthy of being called love. Snow settled between them. Clara climbed into the carriage. Rowan did not ask when she would return. The door closed. Wheels began moving. His wolf tried to follow. Rowan caught him gently by the neck. No, the wolf whined as Clara disappeared through the gates. She has to be allowed to leave us. Rowan watched until fresh snow softened the tracks. Only then did he whisper the words Clara never heard. And we have to become worth coming back to. Greyhaven lay nearly a day south of Blackwood. Clara arrived exhausted, heartbroken, and strangely lighter. The village clinic had 6 beds, a leaking roof, cracked windows, and Margaret Hale, an elderly healer who regarded sleep as a personal weakness. On Clara's first morning, Margaret handed her an apron. You can stitch. Yes, said a bone. With supervision. Handle blood. Clara remembered Rowan behind the western stables. Apparently, Margaret pointed toward a screaming child in the next room. Good. Prove it. Greyhaven did not care that Clara had once been close to the Alpha King. Patients cared whether her hands were steady. Mothers cared whether she could lower a fever. Children cared whether she had honey after bitter medicine. Within weeks, Clara stopped waking with her hands searching for the silver key that was no longer beside her bed. People came looking for Clara. Not Rowan's Clara. Not the Omega from the Western Cottage. Just Clara Vale. For the first time in years, being needed did not require her to wait. Winter settled over Greyhaven. Clara learned quickly. She stitched cuts, treated burns, helped set broken fingers, and discovered which elderly wolves lied about taking their medicine. Margaret corrected her without mercy and praised her so rarely that one quiet, good work could carry Clara through an entire week. Then Margaret placed training papers on the clinic table. Stay through spring. Train properly under me. Clara stared at them. As a healer, unless you secretly intend to become a blacksmith. Clara laughed. Then, unexpectedly, she cried. She signed her name. That evening a letter waited beneath her door. There was no royal seal. Clara, I nearly rode to Greyhaven today. I decided wanting to see you was not the same as having the right to interrupt the life you are building. I hope the village is kind to you. Rowan. Clara read it 3 times. She folded it and placed it inside a drawer. She did not answer. 11 days later, another arrived. Clara, the Northern Treaty negotiations continue. Celeste has threatened to throw 2 documents at my head. My tea remains terrible. I am beginning to accept that this is not a national emergency. Rowan. Clara laughed before she could stop herself. Still she did not answer. At Blackwood, Rowan discovered Clara's absence everywhere. Not because no one could replace the things she had done for him. Someone else brought tea. Someone else kept the fireplaces burning. The palace continued functioning. That was precisely what forced him to see the truth. Clara had never been indispensable because of what she did for him. He had simply allowed her care to become invisible through familiarity. Once he began looking, he saw the same pattern throughout Blackwood. Omegas worked longer hours for lower wages. Servants could lose housing when employment ended. Training positions quietly favored ranked families. Clara had mentioned these things before. Rowan had listened sympathetically, then returned to what he considered more urgent matters. Now he read the reports himself. He changed wage rules. Opened training positions by ability rather than rank. Ordered long-term palace housing separated from employment status. A counselor suggested the reforms might impress Clara. Rowan's expression turned cold. She may never return. The counselor fell silent. Rowan continued. Do it because it is right. Word eventually reached Greyhaven. Clara distrusted it at first. Then Margaret returned from Blackwood with documents granting the clinic additional winter funding under a new territory-wide medical program. Your king has become inconveniently competent, Margaret said. Clara looked at Rowan's signature. He is not my king anymore. Margaret raised one eyebrow. That was not what I meant. That night Clara finally answered his letters. Rowan, the tea was never terrible. You simply used too much water. Greyhaven is kind to me. I hope you are learning to be kind without expecting someone to reward you for it. Clara. At Blackwood Palace, Rowan read the letter until the candles burned low. He did not send flowers. He did not send jewelry. He did not ride south. He simply wrote back. Clara understood. I will use less water. Rowan. She laughed so hard Margaret came from the next room to check on her. The distance between them remained. But for the first time, neither of them was pretending distance meant abandonment. Winter deepened. Rowan kept his distance. That became the first gift Clara had ever received from him that truly cost him something. He wanted to ride to Greyhaven. His wolf wanted it more. Every time Rowan reached for his coat, he remembered the carriage door and Clara asking whether his love existed only because she was leaving. So he waited without assuming she would return. Their letters continued slowly. Clara wrote about patience. Rowan confessed that Celeste had beaten him at chess 6 times. Celeste added a note beneath his handwriting. He is lying. It was 7. Clara laughed loudly enough for the clinic patients to hear. Then spring approached, and a fever swept through the southern villages. Greyhaven filled overnight. Clara worked until her hands shook. The new Blackwood Clinic network redirected medicine automatically. Crates arrived before Greyhaven had to beg for them. Clara stood beside the supplies and understood the difference. Rowan had not built a system around rescuing her. He had built one that worked even when he was not watching. 3 days later, Clara collapsed from exhaustion. She woke in one of the clinic beds with Margaret beside her. You are a terrible patient. Clara tried to sit. Margaret pushed her back. No, the fever ward still exists without you. Clara heard movement outside. Horses. Several. Her heart tightened. Margaret saw her expression. Blackwood sent additional healers. Clara waited. And Rowan. Clara closed her eyes. Of course. Before you become dramatic. He came because 3 villages are affected, and he is their king. That mattered. Rowan did not enter Clara's room. He coordinated supplies, met village leaders, carried crates when there were not enough hands, and slept in the council house. His wolf, however, had fewer principles. On the second evening, Clara stepped outside for air and found the enormous black animal sitting across the road. It did not approach. Clara almost smiled. He told you to stay away. The wolf lowered its ears. At least one of you is learning. It remained exactly where it was. Rowan appeared behind it moments later. He looked tired. More tired than she remembered. I told him not to bother you. He is not bothering me. Rowan stopped. Months earlier, he would have crossed the distance without thinking. Now he waited. Clara noticed. You look terrible. Apparently that is how people greet kings in Greyhaven. Only deserving ones. A faint smile touched his face. Margaret says you collapsed. Margaret tells everyone everything. She is terrifying. Correct. Silence settled between them. Rowan looked toward the clinic. You built something here. I helped. You look different. Clara stiffened. Rowan corrected himself. Not happier because you left me. I mean, you look like your life belongs to you. Her throat tightened. It does. Rowan nodded. Good. The word cost him something. Clara could hear it. You are leaving tomorrow. Yes. The additional healers can manage the outbreak. I have a kingdom. Very responsible. I have been practicing. For the first time since the moon ball, Clara smiled at him without pain immediately following. Rowan's wolf rose, but stayed beside him. Clara looked at the animal. You may come closer. The wolf crossed the road instantly and pressed its great head beneath her palm. Rowan laughed softly. Traitor. Clara buried her fingers in the black fur. She had missed this. She had missed Rowan too. But missing someone no longer felt like an instruction to surrender everything she had built. Rowan left Greyhaven the next morning. Clara watched from the clinic steps as his horse disappeared beyond the village road. His wolf followed, then stopped at the edge of town and looked back. Clara lifted one hand. The wolf turned and ran after its king. For the first time, watching Rowan leave did not feel like being abandoned. Weeks passed. The fever weakened. Clara completed another stage of her training. Her life became full in ways she had never imagined at Blackwood. She had patients who trusted her, work that challenged her, and a room above the clinic whose key belonged only to her. Rowan's letters continued. They became less apologetic and more honest. He wrote about mistakes without asking Clara to comfort him. She wrote about Greyhaven without trying to make him jealous. Then Rowan returned 1 month later, alone except for his wolf and 2 guards who remained outside the village. Clara found him near the frozen river after her shift. You came. You asked me to in your last letter. She had. The realization warmed her. Rowan walked beside her along the riverbank. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, he stopped. I owe you an apology that does not ask anything from you. Clara faced him. Rowan looked toward the frozen water. I spent years telling myself I could not choose you because I was king. The truth is uglier. Being king made it easy to avoid choosing anything that cost me. Clara remained silent. I gave you a cottage and convinced myself that meant security. I came to you when I was tired or wounded and called that intimacy. You made room for every part of my life, and I gave you whatever space remained after everything else was finished. Clara's eyes burned. Rowan continued. Celeste was never the reason you left. She was only the moment you finally saw the arrangement clearly. Yes, I know that now. He took a breath. I am sorry. No explanation followed. No promise. Clara looked at the man before her and remembered the king who once believed every problem could be solved by authority. I loved you. Rowan's eyes closed briefly. I know. Part of me still does. His eyes opened. He did not step closer. I know that too. That does not mean I am coming back. I know. Clara almost laughed through her tears. You have learned 2 useful words. Greyhaven has improved me. You have been here twice. Remarkably efficient village. She smiled. Rowan's expression softened. I do not need an answer from you. Good. I want to earn the right to be part of your life, if you ever want me there. Clara looked down at the snow between them. And if I never do? Rowan swallowed. Then I will still be grateful that you stopped me from becoming the man I was becoming. His wolf sat several yards away, watching them, but making no attempt to interfere. Clara understood the significance. Rowan had trained even the wildest part of himself to respect the boundaries she had drawn. She reached out and touched Rowan's sleeve. He went still. I am not ready. Then nothing happens until you are. Clara nodded. They began walking toward the village. At the crossroads, Rowan turned toward the council house. Clara continued toward the clinic. After several steps, she stopped. Rowan. He turned. Come back next month. His expression changed. You mean that? I do. A slow smile appeared. Then I will come. Clara walked away before courage deserted her. Behind her, Rowan did not follow. That was precisely why she wanted him to return. Spring came slowly to Greyhaven. Rowan returned when Clara asked and stayed away when she did not. Their relationship rebuilt itself through ordinary things. He helped Margaret repair a clinic shutter and discovered kings were apparently terrible carpenters. Clara visited the market with him without guards surrounding them. Rowan learned to ask before entering the clinic treatment rooms. His wolf learned to sit outside until Clara called. Nothing about it felt dramatic enough for a legend. Clara preferred it that way. One evening they returned to the frozen river, now cracking beneath the first warmth of spring. Rowan carried 2 cups of tea. Clara tasted hers and stared at him. Less water. I can be taught. A historic day. They sat on a fallen log. Rowan told her Celeste would leave Blackwood after the Alliance Council ended. She had accepted an ambassadorial position in the East. She will be good at it, Clara said. Terrifyingly good. You never loved her. No. Rowan looked at the river. But that does not excuse what I did to you. Clara appreciated that he did not use Celeste's innocence to minimize his own failure. I used to hate myself for not asking for more. Rowan turned toward her. You should not. I know that now. But I also know I stayed because part of me was afraid that if I asked clearly, you would say no. Rowan's jaw tightened. I might have. I know. The honesty hurt, but it no longer destroyed her. Clara continued. So I accepted almost because almost felt safer. Then nothing. Rowan placed his cup beside him. I wish I could change that. You cannot. No. But we can stop pretending it did not happen. Rowan nodded. The river shifted beneath the ice with a deep cracking sound. His wolf lifted its head. Clara smiled. Very symbolic. I was hoping you would not notice. A frozen river breaking open while we discuss emotional honesty. The universe lacks subtlety. Clara laughed. Rowan watched her, and this time his gaze carried no desperation. Only affection. I missed that sound. Clara's laughter faded into something softer. I missed you too. Rowan did not turn the admission into a claim. Clara leaned slightly toward him. Their shoulders touched. He remained still. You may kiss me, she said. Rowan's breath caught. Clara, do not make me repeat myself. I have patience waiting. His hand rose slowly to her cheek. He gave her enough time to move away. She did not. The kiss was gentle. Nothing like the desperate reunion she once imagined while waiting in the western cottage. It was better because she had chosen the moment herself. When they separated, Rowan rested his forehead lightly against hers. I am trying very hard not to say something foolish. An excellent instinct. I love you. Clara closed her eyes. The words no longer frightened her. That was not foolish. Good. But it is still not a promise. No, Clara opened her eyes. Then let it be true today. Rowan smiled. Today is enough. His wolf released a dramatic sigh from several yards away. Clara laughed again. Rowan looked toward him. He believes this took far too long. He tried to kidnap me with emotional manipulation. He learned that from the old me. Clara slipped her hand into Rowan's. Then both of you are improving. By late spring, Clara completed her healer certification. Margaret announced the result by dropping the document beside Clara's breakfast and saying, "Try not to become unbearable." Clara stared at her name beneath the official seal. Clara Vale, licensed territorial healer. No reference to Rowan. No rank borrowed from anyone. Just her name and work. She cried anyway. Blackwood sent no grand celebration. Rowan sent one. Package containing a new medical satchel and a note. You earned this. I am proud of you. Clara carried the satchel every day. Several weeks later, she traveled to Blackwood for a regional medical meeting. The palace appeared through the trees exactly as she remembered, golden towers rising above dark winter pines now softened by spring. Her chest tightened, but she did not feel trapped. No royal delegation waited. No musicians. No guards lined the stairs. She had written only that she would visit. Rowan had finally learned not to turn uncertainty into ceremony. Clara found him in the western garden arguing with a gardener. Those roses were supposed to be moved yesterday. The gardener folded his arms. Your Majesty, roses do not obey decrees. Everything obeys decrees eventually. Clara smiled. Still terrifying gardeners. Rowan turned. Everything in him stopped. For one heartbeat, she saw the old Rowan, the man whose wolf would have crossed the entire garden before reason caught up. Then he simply smiled. Hello, Clara. Hello, Rowan. He approached, but stopped before touching her. Clara closed the final step herself and hugged him. Rowan's arms came around her carefully. I missed you. You saw me 12 days ago. A brutal 12 days. She laughed against his coat. When they separated, Rowan asked about Greyhaven, Margaret, and the medical meeting. He did not ask how long she would stay until Clara brought it up herself. I have not decided when I am leaving. Months earlier those words would have terrified him. Now he nodded. The east guest room is prepared. Clara tilted her head. Not the western cottage. Rowan reached into his coat. The old silver key lay in his palm. Clara stared at it. The housing reforms transferred the cottage to its long-term resident before winter. Her eyes lifted. Rowan continued. It legally belongs to you. Mine. Yours. You can live there, rent it, sell it, give it away, or never open the door again. He extended the key. There is no condition attached. Clara looked at the little piece of silver that had once meant safety, then waiting, then everything she needed enough courage to surrender. She touched it, but instead of taking it, she closed Rowan's fingers around it. His face fell almost imperceptibly. Keep it. Rowan swallowed. All right. Clara reached into her pocket. Because I brought another one. A small brass key landed in his palm. Rowan stared at it. Greyhaven. Yes. Your room above the clinic. Not anymore. Margaret helped me rent a little house near the river. Rowan looked at the key, then at Clara. She smiled. There is a spare room. When you visit, you can stay there instead of frightening the village council. Rowan's eyes shone. You are giving me a key. Do not become dramatic. I am Alpha King. Drama is part of the office. Clara laughed. The difference between the keys was small enough to fit in one hand and large enough to contain everything they had learned. Rowan's silver key had once given Clara a place inside his world. Clara's brass key invited Rowan into a life she had built herself. Rowan closed his fingers around the brass key. I will not use it unless you invite me. Clara smiled. Good. A sudden pounding of paws came from beyond the garden wall. His enormous black wolf raced around the corner toward her. Rowan tensed instinctively, but the animal slowed on its own and stopped several feet away. Clara burst out laughing. Now you remember manners. The wolf sat. Rowan folded his arms. Apparently, he has made more progress than I have. Clara extended one hand. The wolf waited. Come here. Only then did he cross the distance and press his great head beneath her palm. Clara stroked the black fur between his ears. Much better. Rowan watched her. He missed you. Clara looked at the wolf, then at Rowan. I missed both of you. Rowan's expression softened, but he did not turn those words into a promise she had not made. Clara reached for his hand. His fingers closed gently around hers. They walked through the western garden together. When they passed the path leading toward the cottage, Rowan slowed. Its window was dark. 6 months earlier, Clara had extinguished the lamp before leaving Blackwood. For years, Rowan had looked toward that light and believed it meant she would always be there whenever he finally had time for her. Now the window remained dark, and for the first time it did not frighten him. The following days passed quietly. Clara attended the medical council. Rowan handled state meetings. They ate dinner twice, argued once about rural clinic funding, and spent an afternoon walking beyond the palace walls with his wolf. Clara visited the western cottage alone on her final morning. Dust had gathered lightly along the windowsill. She opened the cupboard and found the porcelain cup Rowan once preferred. For a moment, she remembered the woman who had lived there. Clara did not despise her. That woman had loved sincerely. She had simply believed love required endless patience. Clara opened the window. Spring air moved through the room. She did not relight the old lamp. She did not need to. Rowan waited outside rather than entering without invitation. Clara found him beneath the garden arch. I leave for Greyhaven after breakfast. I know. You are taking that surprisingly well. I have developed coping mechanisms. Such as, Rowan held up the brass key. Evidence that I may be invited somewhere eventually. Clara smiled. Do not abuse your privileges. Never. His wolf sat beside him, watching Clara carefully. She crouched and rubbed behind its ears. Look after him. Rowan looked offended. I am standing here. Exactly. Clara rose. Rowan's expression became serious. I used to think loving you meant finding a way to make you stay at Blackwood. Clara listened. Now I think it means wanting your life to remain yours, even when parts of it take you away from me. She touched his cheek. That sounds inconvenient. Extremely. Good. Rowan laughed softly. His hand lifted toward hers, then stopped. He still waited. Clara noticed. 6 months earlier, she had spent years waiting for Rowan to choose her. Now a king stood before her and allowed the choice to remain entirely hers. Clara reached first. She slipped her hand into his. Rowan's fingers closed gently around it. Come to Greyhaven next month. I will. Bring fewer guards. I am willing to negotiate. 2, 4, 3. Done. Clara smiled. She leaned forward and kissed him once. When she stepped away, Rowan did not pull her back. Later that morning, Clara's carriage passed through the palace gates. Rowan and his wolf watched from the courtyard. Neither followed. Clara looked back once and raised her hand. Rowan did the same. The road turned south. Blackwood disappeared behind the trees. In her pocket rested the key to her own house. In Rowan's hand rested its twin. The old silver key remained at the palace, no longer a symbol of shelter, debt, or waiting. Clara had once believed being chosen by the Alpha King would prove she was worthy of love. She no longer needed that proof. She had built a life with her own hands, found work that carried her name, and learned that leaving someone could sometimes be the first honest act of love. Rowan had learned something harder. Love was not the power to keep someone beside him. It was the courage to leave the door open without standing in the doorway. A month later, near sunset, Clara heard hoofbeats outside her small Greyhaven house. She looked through the window. Rowan stood beside the gate with one travel bag, 3 guards waiting far down the road, and his enormous black wolf sitting politely beside him. He did not use the brass key. He knocked. Clara smiled. She crossed the room and opened the door herself. Rowan remained outside until she stepped aside. Come in. Only then did the Alpha King enter. The wolf waited too. Clara laughed and called him inside. The door closed against the evening cold. No palace watched them. No council approved them. No silver key decided where Clara belonged. This home was hers. This life was hers. And this time, when she chose Rowan, she did not choose him because he was king, because his wolf followed her, or because she was afraid to lose him. She chose him because he had finally learned to stand at her door and wait to be invited in.